Good evening, my fellow subscribers, and welcome back to another episode of Is It Mediocre with the only mediocre game developer you'll ever need or want or desire. Now, in today's episode, we are going to be taking a look at the game Undertale. Now, this game came out in 2015, I believe, which a lot of interesting titles have came out during that time, such as Fallout 4, Life is Strange, even Call of Duty Black Ops 3. There were a lot of games that didn't really. I guess most of the games that came out during this time were very they were pushing the graphics or they were pushing different styles. Most of them were in the sort of 3D setting. There weren't many games that came out that were necessarily 2D or had a retro feel to them, which instantly made this game stand out as one of a kind because not only does it capture that sort of retro feeling, but it's also mostly story based. And many of these games that came out were either competitive or relied on like an open world setting. But this game was like innately linear as well as just retro and not even necessarily stylized, but it was more so again reusing the same word retro because you have like the pixel art style, you have like some simple backgrounds to it, and you also have some lovable characters, which again during this time frame it wasn't really like the trend was mostly open world, even some competitive games, like even Rocket League came out in this time. So the fact that Undertale stood out amongst them shouldn't be that much of a surprise. But what is a surprise is how well it really did, in my opinion, because this game relied on story. And with YouTube popping off during this time frame, like YouTube was basically in its prime during 2015, it definitely captured the hearts of a lot of different YouTubers out there playing the game and experiencing it for the first time. It also definitely stood the test of time. I mean, there are people like even today, such as myself, like discovering the game for the first time because like I wasn't really able to play it. I always saw the memes, but I just didn't really play the game or seen it or really understand why it was like so big and why there was like an entire cult-like community around it. But anyway, we'll get into more on that later about the community and like about this game's impact and stuff like that later. But first, let's look at the developer, Toby Fox. Who really is he? So Toby Fox was born in New Hampshire, Manchester. He studied environmental science at Northern University and graduated around 2014. Um, his first known project was Earthbound the Halloween Hack in 2008, which was a ROM hack. And then he eventually started contributing music to Homestuck, which is a webcomic by Andrew Hussey. He was noticed via forums posted, where he posted piano covers, remixes, and then later original music. And for Undertale, Toby Fox launched a Kickstarter actually, and the goal was $5,000, but it raised far more than that. Um, and then Undertale was released in 2015. It was his first full game, writing it, designing it, and also like making the music for it, which the music was top notch. I know Toby Fox has like been like deep into composition, like he's played like several instruments and stuff like that. And yeah, it mixes RPG like elements with different narrative choices that affect the story. For example, sparing monsters and killing them, of course. And throughout his like game development, he has mentioned like before that wrist and hand pain that sometimes inhibits his ability to compose or program. And because he uses like custom assets a lot of the time, that also like stumps development, which makes damn sense because Chapter 1 came out in 2018 and Chapter 2 came out in 2021. Calm down. Calm down. I mean, I'm just getting to the game now, but I was like kind of waiting for Chapter 3 and 4. And then it came out in 2025, and I'm like, wow! Now the game's fully released. I can finally play the game. And okay, that's about Deltarune. Okay, we're gonna stick with Undertale. All right, let's get back on track. So Undertale comes out in 2015. YouTube is booming. Now, instantly, almost instantly, people jumped on this because there was a Kickstarter. Okay, it was probably like went viral somewhere. I'm not sure like what his marketing goal really was with this game because I know from like personal experience, trying to market as an indie developer kind of sucks. But it seems like he started a Kickstarter in like June of 2013. The goal was 5,000, but he ended up raising like $50,000 from around like 2,400 backers. And there was the core community right there, honestly. Um, and then after the Kickstarter, it seems like it looks like he began like interacting with the fans a little bit, showing them updates and stuff like that, fan art, music covers, animations. Yeah, yeah, okay. So like the Kickstarter was basically like not only a Kickstarter to money, but also a Kickstarter to marketing and the fan base around it, because through that there was like people making art, people making animations, all that stuff, which is very smart. Um, because again, I before this I only saw Kickstarter as like something to just like I only saw Kickstarter as a way to like raise money, but with this, it seems like it was more like a marketing campaign in and of itself, which is very interesting and something that like any developer or person can make note of, because if like raising money can cause like people to share word of mouth and also like start something that slowly expands to a bigger audience, it feels like that's sort of a principle that we can all follow and learn from. And with that being said, I would like to ask this question: what makes a good game? Because everyone has their own answer, honestly. For me, I really enjoy kick-ass gameplay with a epic-ass story. That's usually my go-to game. I want stuff that immerses me, makes me feel like I'm inside of the game, and adapts to the choices that I make. Now, my answer is going to be different from everyone else's answer, of course. So, with that in mind, let's start from the beginning. Let's go through Undertale to really, try and figure out and sort it out to make sure what my final verdict will be. And give you a impression of what my final verdict would be, I mean. At the end of this episode, I will be giving a letter rating that is F minus to A plus. So stick around if you're willing to see and hear me out on what my final rating is and why it is the rating I gave it. So, in Undertale, you play as a human child, which you name them, who has fallen into the underground, which is a realm below the surface where the monsters have been sealed by a magical barrier. Um, the monsters live in a variety of different regions, from Ruin to Snowden to Waterfall, Hotland, and each region does have a few puzzles, or such as like different enemies, major boss characters, and key NPCs. Are Toriel, Sans, Undyne, Alphys, Papyrus, Metaton, and Asgore, of course, and I guess Azrael too. And the game gives you choices such as you can fight the monsters, spare them, flee, pacify, stuff like that. So in the ruins, we meet Flowey, who tries to trick us into attacking them, um, or or them attacking us, basically, and then says like, "This world is kill or be killed." So that instantly like gives the impression that you can't really trust anyone in this game. But then, contrary to that, we get an introduction to Toriel, in which Toriel's like super trustworthy, probably because she's so stupid, but still super trustworthy. She teaches you to survive without killing. You explore puzzles, figure out the whole puzzle thing, and then at the end of the ruins, you get to choose to fight Toriel or spare her. But let's be honest, everyone's going to spare her if you're not like attacking any monsters up to that point. Because I mean, if you just like outright kill her, that's you're kind of fucking weird. Anyway, so in Snowden or Waterfall, we meet Papyrus, and Undyne. Undyne, honestly, tries to kill us like multiple different times, and then finally, like at the end, we run away from her, and then in Hotland, she basically like she chases us into Hotland, and then in Hotland she basically fucking faints because she's wearing like metal armor inside like a place full of lava, so like it's obviously going to be hot. So, but you have the choice to help her by just dumping water on her head or just leaving, which I didn't even know that was possible. But someone told me that, hey, you could just leave. You didn't have to like help her. Honestly, I probably would have just left. But anyway, in for Alphys, I hate Alphys. You guys know how much I hate Alphys. Um, but I hate a character more. So Alphys, with her, like she pretends basically to help you throughout Hotland, even though she more or less just activated everything just so she could have a role in your story. And then right after Hotland, you fight Metaton. Metaton's like some weird underground celebrity, literally underground celebrity, who is just trying to like give people hope and like I guess entertain people while being underground. But that entertainment relates to killing us somehow. So great. And then we get to Asgore, which is the ruler of the underground. He wants to collect 7 human souls in order to break the barrier and free the monsters. He has gotten 6, and we are the 7th. Um, but what's weird to me is that, and this isn't a theory, but like he should already have 7. But I bet he gave like this the other determination soul to Alphys so that she could experiment, which she did. It is revealed in the true pacifist route that she is the one who basically made Flowey, and she is also the one who is imbuing determination into different monsters and also imbued Undyne with determination. I think, which is kind of crazy, honestly. Especially if you think about the fact that we could, in the genocide out route, we could basically come back as Kara. So when we're fighting Undyne, it's like we're, fighting ourselves almost. But anyway, going back to the neutral route, you beat Asgore, and then Flowey ends up killing him because you you let's how do I say this? You were a bitch and you decided to spare Asgore. So Flowey's like, "You idiot!" And then I took all the human souls, and then I'm gonna turn into a giant alien creature and start fucking you. Yeah. So and then like the souls end up helping you beat Flowey. And then when you do, the game crashes. Flowey ends up coming back if you go back into the game and telling you basically how to do the true pacifist ending. So you go back into the game, you go through the laboratory where Alphys is. You end up finding out that all this like experimentation on determination and that these monsters are like almost suffering down there because Alphys is too scared to let them out, is too scared to let anyone know what happened to their family members and stuff like that. And then after that, the ending's a lot different this time around where Asgore's like, it was nice to meet you, goodbye. And then Toriel comes in and saves your ass. Um, and then one by one, all like the major NPCs in the game, like, end up saying, hey, stop fighting. And then we all have a nice, cool moment where Alphys and Undyne almost kiss. That would have been nightmare fuel for me, but they still almost kiss. And then afterwards, like everyone's together, like all the monsters come around, and then Flowey pops his bitch ass back up again and starts like restraining everyone with vines. He's like, "You idiot! You thought it was over? You thought I was nice after you destroyed me with all those human souls, but apparently not." Because Alf and then Flowey ends up, trying to kill us, but then we're protected by our friends, of course. And then every single monster in existence starts coming around, circling around Flowey, bashing his fucking skull in, and then Flowey's like, I've had enough. All of you are dead, all of your souls are mine. And then it gets revealed that Flowey was actually Asriel. It's Flowriel. So then it's a giant fight with us basically facing a god. We somehow have enough determination to pull through, and we end up saving Asriel's soul. Because now that he has all these like monster souls, he could feel what they're feeling. He feels their our friendship with all the monsters in the underground now. So after we convince him to stop beating our ass, he breaks the barrier. We all leave. We're all free, and then the human is deemed as like a voucher for all the monsters that end up leaving. So that's the true ending. Let's get to the bad ending. Let's get to the horrible ending, the genocide route. What do? You commit genocide, mass genocide of the underground of all the monsters. How? By farming your left testicle off, okay? It takes a long time to farm all these monsters, okay? For me, I just did like that thing where I just walk in place almost, and it still took a very, very long time. So, most of your hours are going to come from that, but you basically clear every monster in each individual room, and then you murk the boss monster in like one hit. So, in the ruins, after you finish eliminating every single monster, you just go to where Toriel is. She's like, prove to me you're strong enough to survive. And when you kill her, she's like, now I know who I was protecting. Not you, but them. And them is referring to the other monsters that are inside the underground. Because as soon as you leave, you're a menace to society. You don't play by the rules. You're a rebel. Okay, you probably are deemed a school threat. Shout out to Flight Reacts. But with Sans already knows what's up. He's like, hey, it'd really help me if you could like still pretend to be human for my brother, so my brother could have fun or something. Um, yeah, that didn't really last too long since we end up killing his brother too. Um, mm, the most notable thing from this route is the fact that Undyne has determination and Sans is a fucking god. So the Sans fight, I mean, I kind of beat him, so like he wasn't really shit to me, honestly. But like for other people, you're gonna have a hard time with this dude because not only when you attack does he just dodge everything, but also if you end up like sparing him in the middle of that fight, he'll just completely turn on you and say if so he knows he has to know about the like the whole. There's a lot of fourth wall breaks in this game, by the way, where Flowey's like, I took the human souls and then I'm gonna crash your game, and then Santa's like, yeah, you've been saving a lot. Uh, if we were friends, you wouldn't come back. All right, so don't go back to your save if we're friends. And then even Asgore's like, if you tell Asgore that you've been killed by him, he will like respond like nodding his head. So some monsters do know about the resets. Okay, there's like that's point blank. So they know about like you going back to your different saves and stuff like that. And saves are. I like how this game sort of wraps around like the whole fourth wall breaking because it's not really fourth wall breaking if you really think about it. Because if you have determination, you have the ability to cheat death immediately. So that's just off rip. That's how it goes. That's why we're able to save and come back. Essentially, it's almost like a Elden Ring in that regard, honestly. And of course, since Elden Ring's my favorite game, I'll have to mention it in every single damn episode. So Alphys ends up evacuating most of the monsters into the true lab, which we can't get down to. So we end up skipping killing Alphys, which I really hated. But we end up fighting Sans. Sans beats our ass, but if you fight him enough times, you'll eventually overcome him. He ends up going out in like one hit too, if you actually land a hit on him, which you will at the end of the fight when he ends up falling asleep. And then we get to Asgore, which of course he goes down in one hit, and then Flowey tries to plead with us like, "No, I didn't betray you. It was I killed him because apparently one of the comments said that we need to kill Asgore if we wanted to leave the underground, but since we didn't, we're basically stuck down there forever. So now Asgore is dead. Flowey is dead. Everyone in the underground is essentially dead except for the people that were evacuated into the true lab. So then Kara pops up and she's like, "Hey, how's it going? Uh, you want to just go to a different world and just kill everything in there too?" And then since you're a dumbass, you say yes. And then she hits you for 9999999999999 damage, and then that's the end of the game. That's the end of the route, essentially. And if you do end up restoring the world, I saw what happens. If you restore the world at the end of like the true pacifist route, depending on which like route you go for, if you want to just leave or if you want to stay with the monsters, um, Kara will pop up her face like somewhere and do bad stuff. So that's a neat little detail that didn't really need to be there, but it makes sense. So that's basically it for what happens in Undertale. Now there are a few plot holes that I like just need to point out. The whole fact that like the human souls are there and anyone can use them, but people just don't for whatever reason. Like say if I was killing everybody, like if I'm a monster and I saw a human like just killing every single person that I know and love, the first thing I do if I'm like the last one alive, the first thing I'm doing is I'm going down in that fucking basement and I'm taking all the human souls and I'm becoming a god so I can kill this bitch. That's exactly what I'm doing. And honestly, that's probably what should have happened, the realistic thing that would have happened. I don't understand why Flowey can just take all the human souls, but like everyone else can't. Because monsters can absorb human souls. Like that was a thing that I thought was in the lore, but apparently people just don't do it for it. Like imagine if Sans got all the human souls. Imagine that. Okay, I'm pretty sure if Sans got all the human souls, no one would be able to beat him. But since he didn't, a college student with no money can do that. So there's that. And then also another plot hole is the fact that why can't we just get down to the lab and kill everyone? Why can't we just do that? Like the elevator was open randomly. Like does Alphys have the key? But even so, like can't we just like isn't there like an alternative entrance to the lab or something where we can kill everyone? Like if that's the case, why does like the gate like the route just seems to end abruptly? So there's a few like gripes and plot holes that I just don't really understand, and they kind of need answering because I am a big thinker and I'm also pretty big on details, as you can probably tell from me doing a game review. So, yeah. But with that being said, what makes this game good? What makes Undertale Undertale? Or why do people like this game so much? Why is there such a fan base to it? The characters. It's the characters for me. I like the characters, basically. The characters have like all distinct personalities. They all sort of mesh together and feed off one another nicely. It's something that could definitely captivate a lot of people. And yeah, that and like the story, of course, the story of like how like you're not killing anyone, interacting with the cool characters. The characters get to be friends. You get to be a giant hero of the underground. There's a happy ending to it. It wraps it up in a nice little bow if you go the pacifist route, and like you're good. It's just a nice. It's not really unique in. I don't. How do I say this? It's not very unique, but it's unique enough to the point where it like has a special place in the hearts of a lot of different fans and people who play this game because it does what a lot of games have done in the past, but it does it better. Like I bet you if you ask anyone who's played this game who their favorite character is, they will give you a definitive answer. And it's probably Sans, but not me, because Sans is actually my least favorite character. I fucking hate that nigga. Honestly, I don't understand why he's so strong to begin with. He's a fucking skeleton. His brother went out like a bitch. His brother's a loser, okay? Why is Sans so strong if his brother is a loser? Is Papyrus isn't Papyrus his little brother or something? Like why why is he so strong? There should be because that's a question that needs to be answered. Because I don't understand anything of why like. why Sans is so strong, what the hell he's talking about during the dialogue when you fight him. Because as like a person who's played this game like front to back, I have no clue what is going on with Sans, like at all. Like I don't know. Like what the fuck are those little ass blaster things? And why is he so strong? What is he talking about? Like I gave up going back like a long time ago. Like what is he talking about? Honestly, that's never discussed throughout the entirety of the game for me. Now, my favorite character is definitely not Alphys. Alphys and Sans are like my two least favorite characters, but my favorite character I think might have to be Undyne, just because I've had a lot of like funny moments with her, and uh, even though she's kind of crazy and mentally ill, she's still like I think she's just cool. Honestly, that's the whole reason. She's just cool. Fight me. Now, since we discussed like what makes this game so good, one of the factors being the characters. Why are the characters like so good? What makes the characters so distinct? What makes the characters so likable? Even down to the dialogue that they put in their dialogue box, the font in itself is different, so they all are like meant to be distinct. For example, Papyrus has, I think, the Papyrus font, and Sans has Comic Sans because, of course. So, excuse me, that sort of plays a pretty big role in why the characters are so distinct and likable. Um, Again, Toby did a good job at like making sure that they all have distinct personalities. And for example, Undyne's like just a lunatic, and Alphys is just a incel loser. So having those two end up like coming around and getting together at the end of the game is it's like opposites attract almost, which doesn't really work for most situations, but in this one it does just because I mean I can't really explain it. It just does, honestly. So with that out the way, the game's strong point is the characters and the story. What's its weak point, honestly? What's its weak point? I keep saying honestly. What's its weak point, honestly? What's the game's weakness? I think it'd have to be the gameplay. The gameplay and let's be honest. The gameplay most of the time is just walking around. And then if you see a monster, you choose to do an act that matches it. You maybe dodge an attack that's pretty repetitive since all the monsters of that same category have the same exact attack. And then you just spare them. That's it. That's it for the pacifist route. For the genocide route, you just press one button, you maybe one shot them, and if not, you dodge an attack, but then you hit them again and they're dead. All right? And then it's pretty much more the same for the neutral route, but just both of those combined, essentially. So, yep, gameplay. Most of the time, you're just walking around waiting for something to attack you, or you're just progressing through the game, or doing some puzzles that are. Some of the puzzles were good, and some of them were just annoying, in my opinion. Like, some of them just stump the progress of the game. That's what it felt like. It felt like it was just stumping for no reason. But other than that, yeah, it's pretty. Well, the only three fights I really remember is the Azrael fight, the Sands fight, and then the Muffet fight. Really, those are the three fights I really like can remember off the top of my head that were like very I guess fun because the other sort of fights were just kind of like there wasn't much gimmick to them. It was just you move around. It was just bullet hell basically. There were a whole bunch of bullets flying at you, and you just gotta dodge them basically. Like none of them were really like so iconic to the point where they stick in my head. So that's another pretty big detriment I would say regarding Undertale. Like the gameplay could use like a bit of work regarding fights, like just making the overworld and regular progression of the game feel a bit more substantial than it just being okay, move around or don't move around. It really doesn't matter because if you get hit, you're not really gonna die. So most, I would say, for most of the boss monsters in the game, those fights were really substantial. But like for the regular monsters, they could use a lot of work, man. Now, as for the soundtrack, this is another one of the game's like strong points. The fact that there are so many like consistent melodies throughout different music that basically make you feel like almost nostalgic in a way. Like where have I heard this before? I forget what the technical term for that is, but it served this game very well, especially the what's it called, the Your Best Friend theme or something like that, where it's like do 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 do. That song that gives me chills every single time, just because it's like it plays at the most like iconic parts of the game, and it's just a good melody. It's like a lullaby almost, or a what's it called? Nursery rhyme. Nursery rhyme. It reminds me a lot of a nursery rhyme, so it's kind of like feels nostalgic, but at the same time, it feels like you haven't heard it, but you've heard it before, but you haven't heard it. So you're kind of going back and forth in your head as you're like fighting for your life. Now, as for my experience playing this game, I definitely like overall, I could say it's an enjoyable experience. Like despite everything, it's definitely like more of a positive, enjoyable experience. Aside from the genocide route, because that shit was fucked up. Like that shit is gonna be like embedded in my mind for at least about 2 weeks. So thanks for that, Toby. You've traumatized me. No, you know what it was? It wasn't Toby. It was y'all niggas. Y'all wanted me to do the genocide route, and now I'm traumatized because of y'all. All right. So, in order to take accountability for your guys' actions, you guys have to subscribe and like this video. Okay, I don't make the rules. Now, I want to touch on this next topic briefly because I know that like it can only like this is just the half of it, like Deltarune's the other half. But why is this game so immersive? Because we're essentially controlling a child that can't count to 10, according to Toby Fox, but I think that's cap. I think Frisk is actually 18, because there's no way in hell you're hitting on a fish and you don't know what you're doing, and you're flirting with a goat and then calling her mother. Like that's kind of crazy for a person who can't even count to 10 to do. So if that's the case, that means we're a soul, like the player is a soul controlling Frisk, which is sort of like along the same lines as Deltarune, because in Deltarune you're a soul controlling Chris, and Chris realizes that, and he ends up, or they end up, or she ends up like not liking you, or you end up like invading, like going against what her original plans are, so she ends up like taking you out and throwing you like into a bird cage or some stupid shit like that. So that's probably why it's so immersive, because instead of like the game looking at you as like a kid or as like a an actual like you can't really talk as the kid. You can't really do anything except for like control the kid. The kid doesn't even have his damn eyes open. He probably got unconscious from falling on his fucking face on the bed of flowers. But so yeah, it seems like we're more or less controlling the soul of this kid, which is why it makes it so immersive, because the game is based on that instead of based on like you actually being the kid. And yeah, and then the community. I think Toby did a real good job. Like being an indie dev, I know many people who I've worked with in the past who would like immediately jump the gun, and anyone who made a fan game on this like giant IP would end up like being like, no, all right, you're gonna have to pay me like 5% of the revenue that you get from this game if you sell it, or for example, like it's kind of like the route that Scott went, but it said Scott Carlson, the person who made Five Nights at Freddy's, instead of like actively like helping the people who are creating fan games to make them, Toby more or less just like kind of turned a blind eye to it almost. Well, not necessarily turned a blind eye, but it's like whatever. Like do what you want almost. Just I guess don't sell it, because I haven't seen any Undertale games that cost money. So well yet. And maybe there are some that cost money, and if like Toby doesn't care, he doesn't care. But like he probably because Scott encourages it. Toby, I think he might be like the type to just be like, whatever, like do what you want. Like it's not my game. I mean, it's inspired by my game, and I like that, but it's not like it's a cool spin on my game. That's cool, but like I'm not gonna like help you out or like. And he's not really obligated to help anyone out, which is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that even the fact that these fan games are allowed to exist is going to not only like make the community stronger, but also will like pave the way for more like future developers that maybe Toby would allow, to help him with Deltarune so it could come out fucking quicker, because I'm tired of waiting. Anyway, so moving on. Why did this game do so well? again, YouTube. That's a big part. YouTube was there. YouTube was popping off. The gaming space in YouTube was like still very strong in that time. 10 years ago, whew, I feel old, but 10 years ago, YouTube was definitely a very different place. You got like many of the top creators on that platform were gamers, such as like PewDiePie, Jacksepticeye, all those people, Markiplier, who else? I can't really remember all my YouTubers from that time, but I know that a lot of people were jumping the gun and playing this game. And of course, with that, there were probably a lot of memes associated with this game, especially the Sans music. Even I know the Sans music, and I haven't even played this game before. So, of course, it's been like something that's been in the background. It's almost like been embedded in pop culture a little bit, but not entirely. It was very close to like being that way, but it wasn't. Let's see how much money this game actually made. So this information comes from a Reddit user over 7 years ago called the Barracuda 99. Um, he's saying normally cost Undertale on Steam normally costs 10. And let's say that Undertale sold between 2.5 and 5 million copies. That doesn't include people who bought Undertale on the website. So let's assume that that number is 2.5 million. Now let's assume that half those people bought the game at full price. That would be $1,250,000 or people. And if hold on, okay, let's go to a different source because this one, hold on, give me a second. Here we go. This one's actually from Steam Revenue Calculator, probably a better source than Reddit, honestly. Um, so the game has over 263,000 reviews. The price is around $9.99. Metacritic gave it a 92. How much money did Undertale make? We estimate that Undertale made 126,228,365 in gross revenue since its release. Out of this, the developer had an estimated net revenue of $37,237,367. Holy. 37,237,367.76. For those of you who don't know like how much money that is, that's a lot of fucking money, dude. So he basically hit the indie dev jackpot with this one. So again, this is from SteveRevenueCalculator.com. And to put this in perspective, my game hasn't even broken even yet. Which what that means is that I've spent $100 to get the game on Steam, and I've only made like $40 back, honestly. So I didn't even break even. Like I still lost money from trying to release that game. Granted, my game was no Undertale at all. It wasn't even close to Undertale, but it still just shows how successful Undertale was. Like this wasn't even like a this is AAA numbers. If anything, it's more than that. And since I bought the game, that means my money's on there somewhere. So yeah, giant success. So with that in mind, I'm going to give my letter rating now. With all these factors that we discussed, all the story, the gameplay, the money, the release, I will give the game a B minus. Now why? Again, not much replay value once you go through the story, but at the same time, this game wasn't built off of replay value, definitely not. So, this is just comparing to what I would like in a video game. For me, the aspects about this game I love the most were the genocide route and how hard the fights were there, and also like the like funny moments in the story that made things more interesting. For example, Sans pressing us, or like Papyrus trying to go on a date with us. Like that stuff was interesting, funny, witty, and it made for some great clip farming. But at the same time, there are again a few plot holes, and the gameplay like isn't really anything stellar. It's just you wandering around in the underground. And but of course, like again, the game wasn't built off of it wasn't built it wasn't built for like replayability and to play like a regular video game that you come back to every now and then just to like have fun with like after a long day of work. It's played to be an experience. Video games in itself is a form of art. Okay? It's a combination of every single art aspect in existence into one medium that you get to interact with. And that in itself can be seen as an art form. What Toby has done here is a very solid means of why I consider video games to be a form of art. Because with the combination of the music, the art style, the characters, and the overall interaction of it, like there was definitely a lot of interaction. You can literally choose how the game ends. You can choose for it to be a bad ending. You can choose for it to be a good ending. You can choose for it to be a realistic ending, which would probably be the neutral ending, honestly. Neutral would be the most realistic because, I mean, in that sense, you can't really, unless you, I guess, are determined enough, you can come back from death. But with the neutral ending, you probably just, again, if this is realistic, you just die. Like, there's no coming back. So, you can choose what route you want for this story to take. If you're on Demon Time, Genocide route. Like, it's very interactive. It allows you to choose your path, which is a very big plus, and it shows the interactability of video games. There are things this game does well, but again, for me, I see Elden Ring as the best game of all time. And if I'm comparing the best game of all time to this, they're two completely different games, so it's going to be hard. But I think a B minus is like completely solid, especially for this being what Toby Fox's like first like real attempt at a game that he like wrote, designed, and contributed to himself. Then again, there was like a few people like in on the project. Like I think Temmie was one of them. Hoy, I'm Temmie, shit like that. So he definitely did have help, but at the same time, he still, I guess, directed it himself. So all that into this like one project that is like his first real attempt at like a video game, like a real video game. I have to give props, honestly. I have to. I mean, I made my first game like 2 years ago. Didn't do that good. I kind of want to make a different game now, and I mean, like indie devs like me, we can learn a lot from Toby, just like we can learn a lot from Mr. Scott Cawthon himself. Like these games are simple, but they're an experience that you remember. And I think that is the reason why Undertale deserves so much credit. And with that being said, thank you all very much for listening in and tuning in. I know I'm a little bit rusty at this podcast stuff, but again, it's like my second episode in. Like I gotta give me time to get the feeling, get myself into the groove. And I'm thinking about like putting like my Undertale gameplay over this because having you just stare at it like a static screen like I did with the Skate podcast it's just very lame. Like I'd rather like it be somewhat not interactive but somewhat intuitive. Like you guys somewhat have something to look at least while I'm speaking if you are looking at the screen. So, yeah, see you later.